Are we headed towards an AI winter? So the concept of artificial intelligence is about as old as computers. In 1936, Alan Turing wrote a paper that basically invented the modern computer. It was all theoretical, but it was an imaginary computing machine. At pretty much the same time as he came up with this idea, he got to the concept of a thinking machine. So the idea and the story of AI is also the story of computing. So the story and history of AI has basically moved in lockstep with the story of computing. And over the last 60, 70 years, we've had multiple cycles of hype around AI. And you've probably heard the term AI winter, so I wanted to quickly show you a couple of cases where this has already happened, which can also help us work out whether it's going to happen again. So back in the 50s, a group of about 20 academics, all white dudes, surprise, surprise, spent a summer discussing AI. They actually coined the term AI for their conference, worked out the basic thrust of the research that was going to be going forward. At the time, the dominant form of AI was something called symbolic AI, basically trying to capture intelligence and knowledge into mathematics and logic. Basically, the computer scientists were going to write programs that captured all of human knowledge. And then those computer programs would act as experts and be able to complete any task. There's a huge amount of hype, and even in the 1970s, they were talking about, AI is going to take all our jobs within a couple of years. Obviously, this did not happen. In particular, when people realized how complex it was to capture all the inherent implicit knowledge that humans have that we don't really encode, we don't have it written down in rules anywhere. Even a simple task like making a cup of tea has hundreds of implicit rules that we don't really think about when we're making a cup of tea. So trying to encode all of human knowledge in this way was basically impossible, especially on the computers they were working on back then. This led to a crash out here in the mid-70s into the 80s, the first AI winter. At the same time, though, there was a shift going from symbolic AI over to connectivism. Connectivism is much closer to what we have today, so AIs are built on neural nets and then later on deep learning. Very roughly, artificial intelligences that mirrored the structure of our brain. So instead of trying to give it all of the rules in explicit formula, so instead of having to explicitly give these AIs all of the rules, all of the knowledge that they needed, instead we started to build digital brains where we could basically throw a huge amount of data at it and the brain would find patterns itself. A good example of this shift can be found between chess and Go. The computer that finally built Garry Kasparov in chess contained the examples of thousands and thousands and thousands of games and was able to brute force calculate what the next move on the board should be by searching through this massive database. Everything was explicitly in that system. With the game of Go, though, this just wasn't possible because the number of possible moves in a Go game is larger than the atoms in the universe. You couldn't just give the system every example of every move and then have it search for the best one because there were too many moves. So instead, as we move into this phase, we have things like deep learning.